Yep, that's right. We are in the land of the cherry blossom. Japanese Grand Prix, you already know. Pretty exciting stuff. This is F1P1 Life. I'm your host, Sean Kilburn. Let's get right into it. All right, so first things first, who knows what kind of Pirelli tires we're going to need this weekend. Pretty sure the rain is coming and kind of hope that it comes for the race, to be honest. Now, we have had some kind of washouts and so forth. Obviously, I won't get too much into it, but the Singapore Grand Prix was interesting and boring at the same time, but we saw there that the water really just couldn't dissipate from the track. I'm not quite sure that'll happen here at Suzuka, but I will say I definitely think it's going to throw a wrench in things. And this weekend, this whole season, doesn't really seem like it's going to come down to the kind of situation where it's just straightforward. Verstappen just runs away with it. Nothing that can be done. Maybe that happens. I mean, Verstappen has been dominant, so I don't want to make it seem as if that's not the case, with his performances. But what I'm trying to say is it just seems like the kind of weekend or the kind of season where it may just somehow drag on a little bit. I don't know. Now, as far as qualifying, we just had that. Yeah, I stayed up till like 2 a.m. to actually watch it. But Leclerc was doing okay on his last lap. Couldn't really improve too much. Verstappen definitely wasn't improving. So if Leclerc was able to capitalize, he may have been able to squeak out pole. Now he's P2, so he's still going to be able to contest Verstappen. Obviously, he needs to come into first place in order to stop Verstappen from taking a championship at Japan. So we'll see. I'm definitely enjoying some of the midfield battles. The kind of McLaren Alpine thing that's going on right now. I'm enjoying it. And yeah, it's probably because, the title fight is kind of all but wrapped up for the most part. But it's still good racing. It's still neck and neck. So I'm really interested to see. Now, obviously, we saw Ocon and Alonso able to get into, especially Alonso way up. I think, where is he? At P5, I think he landed. So right ahead of, P5, because he was right ahead of Hamilton, who I think grabbed P7, or P6, sorry. 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I think I can count. Maybe I need another sip of coffee here. Who knows? Hold on. Maybe that'll help me out. But yeah, so the Alpines, and I just have to side note, there was some discussion on F1, I think live, while it was like P3 or something, and they were kind of discussing like how Alonso's going to stack up over at Aston Martin. I don't think Stroll has a chance. Clearly, Vettel was outdoing Stroll most of the time. And Vettel had a lot of issues that weren't his own making that kind of caused some other faults and why so many points were racked up. But clearly, Vettel is just a 4-time world champion. Amazing race driver, amazing guy, of course. Sad to see him go. And oh my God, did you hear? I know I'm doing a couple tangents here, but did you hear him at the end of qualifying? He said like arigato, Japan. Basically, we have tomorrow, but he's gonna miss him. And man, that's hard to hear, hard to see Vettel go. But anyway, Vettel has been dominant at Aston Martin. Alonso is just he's on his game, and so I don't think there's any chance now whether Alonso's able to really bring Aston Martin forward. I honestly think that's going to be more on Aston Martin. Same with Vettel. I mean, the talent, the drive is there, the experience. So I think it's going to be on Aston Martin, and I think they're going to be able to make some moves. But as far as him and Stroll, Alonso's going to run away with it. So and that's obviously evident in the kind of performance he's even putting in now. And Alonso has been very unlucky this season. I really think if he was put in a car that was championship, like if he was in a Red Bull next year with Verstappen, all right, let me not even say that, because that is just thinking about like that kind of level of competition. So yeah, I really think that it's going to make for a good race. Obviously McLaren's were kind of doing their thing. I think Daniel ended up like P12, just missed out on Q3. Norris was kind of up there, but he ended up P10. But they're kind of making their strides too. I'm not really sure they're going to be able to compete against Alonso really. But we'll see. Even when the water comes, if it comes, I mean, it's Alonso. He's really not one to kind of not be able to handle it. So I don't know. But yeah, it's gonna. I really hope that we're in for a good race. This track is just great. It just has so many great features, high flowing corners and so forth. And I will have to say, really, I kind of thought the Mercs were going to be a little better suited for this track than they are. And I mean, I guess it's kind of evident from the way the season has gone with their car, but I don't know. I thought by this time in the season and still looking for that win and even just the development overall, I'm surprised it's just not slipperier than it is. But obviously, just like always, the Merc boys are pulling the most out of it. And again, Hamilton P6, I think Russell landed P8. So hopefully, they're able to get up there. And who knows, again, with the rain. And I'll just have to interject and say, as far as Singapore, Hamilton did mess that up. Because you saw, like, the lap after was when I think Yuki went into the wall. And that would have been the perfect time for Hamilton to have pit under the safety car, finally get ahead of Carlos. And he would have, to me, he definitely was on for the podium, maybe even P2. And who knows if he was able to challenge. I mean, Checo was just on his game. So I'm not quite sure he would have been able to get P1 because that's pushing it. But, Leclerc was kind of dodgy the whole time. If he had Hamilton pushing on him as well, and on top of it, trying to get past Perez, he might have been able to kind of pressure Charles. Now, Charles is no slouch. He's obviously top driver as well, but it's just how it is. But yeah, Hamilton made the mistake. He went and touched the wall and luckily was able to save the car. But I think that's also the difference. I mean, him and Verstappen made mistakes, but I think maybe I'll try to do a video on this because even when these legends of like drivers make mistakes, it's on a different level than when these other drivers make mistakes. You know what I mean? And it's evident by that. Like, they both made errors, they did, but they kept their cars going. And so many other people didn't. I think 13 people finished the race in Singapore. So yeah. Now, as far as this race though, you know what I mean? I'm not really quite sure unless the rain comes. It's going to be very hard to challenge for a podium, especially with the other four cars, the Red Bulls and the Ferraris just looking so strong. But you never know. I mean, again, is Leclerc going to be a little eager to try to just hold off that title? Is Verstappen going to be a little eager to just solidify it and make another error like he did last time? Who knows? But I do think it's going to be. I do think it's going to be an excellent race. But that's also the F1 fan in me just kind of hoping. It could be kind of a snooze fest and we're just looking at Alonso and McLaren's trying to battle it out. And maybe like the AlphaTauri's trying to do a little something, to try to put some pressure on the Alpines, which, they've been able to do here and there. But, I don't really see that happening too much. But yeah. All right. So prediction time. Time for me to put my money where my mouth is. I don't really have much money on me lately. Inflation, I'll blame it on that, but just joking. But yeah, so I'm going to say Suzuka. Whew. I'm going to go Carlos, Perez, Verstappen. I think that's how it's going to land. I think maybe Leclerc and Verstappen kind of touch or have some kind of issue. It hasn't happened all season. I don't really want it to happen like they just go off and have like a Monza, Verstappen, Hamilton kind of crash. I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking for anything like that. But I just think like the rain comes, the last title fight, potentially for the track or for any track that they're at, this could be it. I just think maybe something happens. You know what I mean? And they're just right about there. I mean, there wasn't a huge gap between Leclerc. Leclerc definitely could have put it on pole, so the pace between them is just right there. All right, that's my predictions. As far as the Mercs, I don't think Russell is going to get back on his, P5 or better. I do think that Hamilton will be able to slip up just a little bit. And I don't know, predictions other than that. I'm going to predict that Yuki will outperform Gasly, and I'm going to predict that Mick Schumacher outperforms Magnussen. And one other thing I'll just have to say, as far as Singapore, Russell was definitely wrong to say, Mick's fighting for his life here. Russell definitely bumped into him, and that was a sad thing for Mick because he needed those points. He was going to grab 1 or 2 points, I'm pretty sure about it, and he's had a lot of issues like that. And then obviously come flash forward to Suzuka, I mean, on his lap after his practice start, when practice was done in P1, he binned it. And, I just felt so bad for Mick, but, they still have a shot. Clearly the Haas has a little bit of pace. Who knows? With a little bit of rain, some stuff can happen. Magnussen and Schumacher could find themselves contending for a point or two, and I really hope that Mick can snag one. And if not, if all the cars just have too much pace, then I really hope that Mick can just put on a good performance, because I'd really like to see Schumacher at least get a 3rd season. And who knows? And the last thing I'll talk about is just the driver lineup real quick. Of course, we hear Nick DeVries is going to AlphaTauri, and that's right. How is he doing that? Because Pierre Gasly going to Alpine. So, surprise to me, because I thought DeVries was definitely going to go to a Williams after his performance in Monza. And, it just looked like he would stay with some of that Mercedes lineage. And, yeah, and apparently not. And that's all good. I'm definitely happy for him either way. I think it's definitely puts him in a good position because, well, it's funny, Mercedes driver at Red Bull. Obviously, you got a Red Bull driver, Albon, at a Mercedes kind of team with Williams. But puts him in a good position. Can you imagine, instead of that Alonso Verstappen, DeVries Verstappen? That would be interesting. But what that leaves is an open seat at Williams still, and potentially at Haas. So I don't know. Will Daniel Ricciardo go? I don't think he'll go over to Williams. I do think there might be a chance he goes to Haas though. I mean, they keep talking about Hülkenberg and who else? Giovinazzi. I'm sorry, Giovinazzi to me is washed. He's okay, but he's just slightly better than a Latifi. People are saying, well, we still didn't see the best from him. I feel like we did. I'm not a Giovinazzi fan. He's not a bad guy, but I don't know. So if that happens, if Daniel Ricciardo goes to Haas, then could Schumacher go to a Williams team? I think it's possible. I think he'd be a good fit there as well. Still like a young team, still looking for young drivers to develop with and stuff. I think he can really push with Albon, who's kind of, had a couple seasons as well. A little more experience, but I just hope that we don't see Schumacher leave, and I hope that he can put on a couple good performances as the year ends, so that he can really, deserve that kind of seat and make that statement to the rest of the F1 field, basically. And yeah, I definitely think I will try to do a video looking back at some of the crashes. I feel like that's a video I want to make because, like I said, I don't want to just do recap videos and so forth. As great as they are, opinions and so forth, we're still going to put that out and all that. But I do want to do other content as well. So be sure you're checking out the channel, subscribing. You can see some of the videos I've done already as far as like what the car names are, Monza history, that sort of stuff. Trying to bring more content to all of you. So the more you like, the more you comment, helps me out. Sean Kilburn, your host for F1P1 Life. I'll see you all tomorrow in the land of cherry blossoms. Well, I might not see you there, but hopefully we'll all see some great action at Suzuka. See y'all next time.